Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley here for Pinkfresh Studio today. Thanks for joining me. Today I am creating these very clean and simple stationery inspired cards, and I'm going to be featuring the Fancy Blooms stamp set. Now I love these kind of really beautiful botanical looking florals. They have that really like lush greenery vibe to them. And I saw an image on Pinterest when I was searching stationery, and it was actually some digital artwork, and that's what inspired these projects today. And I'll be sure to link that over in the coordinating blog post so that you can check out that inspiration image. So I'm starting out by creating my card base, and I'm using some craft cardstock today. That's cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and then scored at 5 1/2 to create a top folding A2 size card base. And to create these cards, I'm going to do a little bit of masking. So I'm taking some Ink-a-Dink-a-Doo stamping mask paper, and I'm cutting it down to that A2 size, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then I'm using my T-square ruler to mark the center. I just drew an X or a diagonal line from both ends, I guess, or from corner to corner, and that helps me find the center so that I can line up this rectangle die and run it through my die cut machine. That's going to give me 2 pieces. It's going to give me this rectangle mask here. I'm going to remove the backer from that. And I thought about like kind of putting it horizontally along the bottom of the card, kind of off the edge, but I decided to just go ahead and stick with straight center on this. And now I am using the other part of this mask, and that creates a frame, and I'm going to add that to my card front as well. So you can see that I'm actually using both the positive and the negative portions of this mask. And I'm going to create 2 different cards. They're going to have a lot of similarities, but it's kind of 2 ways to kind of create the same look. So now I'm taking my Fancy Bloom stamp set. I'm inking up this stamp with some VersaFine Onyx Black Pigment ink. And in hindsight, I probably should have used my Misty. And also in hindsight, I probably should have just picked a really nice, good dark black dye ink, because this is a pigment ink and it gave me a little bit of trouble when I went to go and add a heat embossed frame. I tried to remedy that by heat setting this first, but I did not do a good job. So in hindsight, maybe I should have used just a nice, good dark black dye ink instead. So I've taken another image from this Fancy Bloom stamp set, and I'm stamping it on this other card that I'm creating. I'm just kind of going in from the upper left corner and the bottom right corner on each of these cards. And then I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, heat set that. Now, I would have heat set this longer, but the heat was causing the masks to kind of peel up, and I still wanted those in place because I'm going to create a frame around those masks with some embossing powder, and I wanted to leave them in place. So I'm really sorry my head gets in the way here, but I'm taking my T-square ruler and I'm lining it up along the edge of that mask, and I'm using my Versamark pen to just draw a line around that mask. And this is going to give me a border that I can then add some heat embossing to and create a really nice metallic frame around these images. So that pigment ink didn't get completely dry, and then I had some embossing powder stuck to my stamped images, and so I just kind of swept it away with a clean, dry paintbrush, and then I heat set my frame on that first one. And I used the penny embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. It is a beautiful kind of coppery, rosy gold. I am totally obsessed with this color right now. You're probably going to see a lot of rose gold on my cards in the near future. So this time I took the mask from the other one and I nestled it inside that frame. And once again, I used my Versamark pen to kind of draw that frame around the edge of this. And this time I'm using the gilded embossing powder from Brutus Monroe, which is the gold color. And then I'm just going to heat set that. Another cool thing to do would be to use some transfer foil instead of the embossing powder. That would give you a really shiny look as well. And you could just use a glue pen that stays sticky once it's dry, kind of like a Zig 2-way glue pen, to draw your frame around that. Now to color my floral images, I'm using my Polychromos colored pencils. Colored pencils show up really well on colored cardstock. And you could also try this on an even darker cardstock. I've seen it on reds and navies. And these colored pencils, they are very opaque, so their color shows up really nicely on the colored cardstock. So I used a variety of greens, and I also used a creamy kind of color for the floral images. And once I was done, I realized that those black stamped lines had kind of gotten lost underneath the colored pencil. So I just used a Copic multi-liner to draw in the stamped lines again. Had I used my Misty, I would have been able to put these back into the Misty and stamp the stamped images again and save myself a little bit of time. So that's another thing that I might do differently if I recreate these cards in the future. So now I have this sentiment. This is the Fabulous Sentiments from the Lush Greenery stamp set, and it has this really cool coordinating die. So once again, I heat emboss those, and then I use the coordinating die to die cut those out. And I think that makes such a beautiful sentiment with that die cut embossed image there. And I wanted to kind of make it stand out a little bit more. So I am using this banner, and this is from the Holiday Cityscape stamp and die set. Is that what it's called? I'll have it linked below. And I'm just stamping that onto some vellum. I prepped the surface with my powder tool, stamped that in some Versamark ink, and then I added the gold and copper embossing powders, and then I heat set that. Now this banner is so perfect, but there is no die to die cut it, and I wish there was a coordinating die. So I had to fussy cut these. It wasn't a big deal. It's a really easy shape to fussy cut, but if you're listening, maker of the stamps and the dies, I would really love a die just for this banner. I think it is the perfect shaped banner. So now I am taking the little UR sub sentiment there, and I'm embossing that onto that banner as well. And I took the Fabulous die cut sentiment, and I am adhering it onto the banner using some foam adhesive. Then I'll flip this grouping over and I'll add some more foam adhesive to the back of this. And then I'll adhere it onto my card front, kind of in the lower left-hand corner, kind of to offset the floral images there. And I think that these cards are so beautiful. I did the same thing on the copper one, kind of the same positioning. And I'm just taking the ends of the banner and kind of rolling them up there to give them a little more dimension. Now I finished off the copper one, the copper embossed one, with some rose gold sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. And the gold embossed version, I finished off with some flat confetti, some gold confetti from Pretty Pink Posh as well. So that finishes up my cards for today. I think these turned out so beautiful. Honestly, when I was making them, I wasn't sure if I was crazy about them, but I kept going, and once I was finished, I was like, oh yes. And it totally reminded me of my inspiration piece. And I love to take things that are not cards and use them as my inspiration so that I don't feel like I'm copying someone else's card designs kind of inadvertently. As always, I will have links to the featured supplies used in this project in the description at YouTube, so be sure to check that out. Or head on over to the Coordinating Pinkfresh Studio blog post. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, and a list of supplies as well. Thanks for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed these projects. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the Pinkfresh YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the card making and paper crafting video tutorials here. As always, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.